How's it going, Connor? Where are you playing out of?
So this is out of the Shark Tank, a private poker club in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh yeah, we've got some cars. We've got some calls from there.
At least once a month, someone from the Shark Tank calls into your show.
So it's like a membership club. It's a membership club, sort of.
No membership fee. It's a daily $30 fee. It's an incredible setup.
Yeah, but they have real casinos though too, right? In Ohio, maybe not in Columbus. I know in Cincinnati and Cleveland, right?
No, there's one in Columbus as well. So yeah, Ohio
Oh,
is one of the rare casino and club states.
is there a Columbus Jack?
It's a Hollywood.
Oh, okay. All right. So what's the size of the game?
So it's a 1-2 game with a 75% match of the stack.
Okay, and how deep are you?
I'm going to end up being the effective stack here. I have 500.
All right, so 500 effective. 1-2, just no straddle or anything like that.
Nope.
Okay.
So it starts off with me raising the low jack with I got black crabs, 3 of clubs, 3 of spades.
Oh, I've never
I
heard
raised
that
that
one.
to 10.
Black crabs, 3 of clubs, 3 of spades to 10. Standard open size to 10?
Yep.
Okay.
So I get a call from the hijack, and then I get a call from the cutoff, who's going to end up being the main villain of the hand.
Okay. So you go 3 ways to the flop?
Yep.
So it looks like the pot's what? I guess there's no, is there rake in these games or no?
No, it's a $2 promo drop, but I never even factored
All
that
right.
in.
Well, I'll just call it $30 then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the flop comes king of hearts, 4 of spades, and the 3 of diamonds. Bottom set.
Love that. So flop bottom set here on a king high board, king 4-3. These are always nice to maximize against king X when you have a lot of guys who love to play offsuit broadways who can't fold top pair, and then you flop a set, especially with the betting lead too. And they're just never going to fold, never going to fold. Sometimes you can also incorporate actually going for a check raise in some spots here as the pre-flop raiser with a hand like this. And the thing about you is that you're actually in a good situation where you're actually first to act. So because you've got these 2 guys to your left, there's 2 guys that act, as opposed to like you being in the middle where one guy checks to you. Now you try to get cagey with the check raise. There's only one guy left act after you. And the thing is about sometimes going for a check raise on this board is that if they have a king, a lot of times they're going to bet it off. And then if they don't have a king, it's really hard for them to call a bet anyways on the flop. Like I feel like a lot of hands that are going to call a bet on this board are going to bet anyways. So I might consider going for a check raise. And again, if it gets checked through, it's not the end of the world because I don't think their ranges are all that strong. I don't know if you considered a check raise or what.
I did think about it a little bit just with the SPRs there. What I decided on was just to go with betting the flop with a bigger sizing.
Okay.
Trying to target that. So I went 20 into 30.
So hero bets 20.
So the hijack in the middle folds, and then the cutoff calls. So this is probably a good time to talk about who the cutoff is.
Okay.
The cutoff player is Key Lee, who used to make content videos for Crush Live Poker.
When you emailed this in, I forgot. When you emailed this in, I was like, "What?" Key Lee, of course. Key Lee did our fast track course 6 or 7 years ago, which is a great course for beginners. And I haven't spoken with him in a long time, maybe even since COVID. I should probably text him actually, because it's been like a really long time. I don't know how much poker he plays. He sort of retired and then went into real estate investment, but he was a pilot actually. And yeah,
that's the impression I get, is that he's retired and then he shows up every now and again.
He's I mean, obviously he definitely knows what he's doing, because that will definitely change the way this hand plays out, especially because I believe that there is kind of a unique river spot. But what I was going to say here is that, again, something a little bit subtle. If you're going to take big sizing on the flop, why not just bet pot for 30? Like, it's the same thing. You just get more money in the pot. When the pot's small like this, that's what I would consider big sizing, would just be full pot of 30. But okay, so you bet 20, hijack folds, cutoff, Key Lee calls.
Yes, and then the turn comes the king of spades.
So the pot is $70. The turn is the king of spades.
So this is where I went. I was trying to, keep my mouth shut when you were talking about the check raise on the flop. That's what I wanted to set up on the turn when this card came in.
You want it? You're saying, okay, well, this is a time to check raise now.
because where I'm coming from is that my villain either has, middling pairs that are between the 4 and the king that are all done to
Mhm.
any other action,
Right.
or they have a king and I can start piling it in against him.
Which is kind of funny because what you bring up there with that middling part, it's another weird thing that's a little bit short circuit at the low stakes of live poker is that if somebody called the flop here, forget about the fact that it's key with like pocket sevens, and now the turn's a king and you bet again, you will see people at the small stakes of live poker one of the few times actually overfold. Like they don't think about, oh, there's less of a chance that you have a king. They're just more thinking about that you're betting again. Whereas like math wise and combo wise, a lot of times you have to continue to hold on with a pair when a king changes. Now, what's interesting about this, typical 1-2 player and then Key Lee, I like your idea of going for a check raise now because most of the time, obviously you're going to get a king to bet and you can build a pot up. And then if the guy has like a hand like 5-6, ace deuce, ace 5, he very well might take a shot to just bet and take it down. The thing about Key though, which is almost kind of similar to me, is that if I had like king jack here or king 10 and you check raise me here on the turn, you might actually get me off my hand by the river. Like I actually might find a fold because it's such a strong line against a good player. But against typical 1-2 competition, sure, it's absolutely great, to do that so you can get more money in the pot because the guy's never going to be like bet folding like, king X here in a situation like this. So again, against typical 1-2 players, I don't mind it. Against a high level player who you actually find yourself in this situation, I might bet. One other thing here too, and I talked a lot about this in a recent video, is that people that understand poker at a higher level know that there are some turn cards that you're going to check that you're not check folding. So just because, let's say I have 5-6 here, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm actually going to start bluffing now on the turn because I know that you're going to be check calling with some hands. However, if you check the river, so say it's king 4-3, I've got like 5-6 and I call, the turn's a king, you check, I check, and now the river's like an 8 and you check again, that's a spot where I actually might bet because I don't think that you have anything there, depending on because if you're a decent player, you would be value betting like jacks or queens, but you'd have to be aware if you're the in-position player that you're going to get snapped off a lot if like some draws miss. So a couple things going on there, but it sounds to me like you checked.
Yeah, I ended up checking, and that also I was just trying to give myself the chance to, if it was just a pure float on the flop, that it would give, if he's putting one bet in the pot, it would give him a chance to put it in right now.
So, and what happens here?
The worst case scenario, he checks it back, and I'm going to the river with a full house in a $70 pot.
So cutoff, checks behind, and I would think that Key at this level, especially if he doesn't know you. Remember, Key's played like 50, 100, 100, 200. He's retired, right? He's playing 1-2. Now, so, this is like sometimes when I go play Hustler Casino Live and then I'm playing 2-5 at Encore, like I'm playing like, 200, 400 at Hustler Casino Live. I don't think Key is like playing King X tricky here against a typical 1-2 player. I think you'd probably bet off like with King 10 when you check to him. I don't think he's checking behind. So the pot remains $70. Okay.
River comes off 5 of spades, so backdoor spades is a thing.
So King of Hearts, 4 of spades, 3 of diamonds, turns the King of Spades, and now the river is the 5 of spades. So there was a backdoor flush draw that came out on the turn, and now it gets there at the end. Okay.
And so I go about 3/4 on that. I bet $50.
Okay.
And I know this hand's been boring up until now, but this is
Not at all. I think
mostly the reason.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so he like snap raises it up to 175.
So Hero bets 50, and Key in the cutoff raises to 175. So again, I'm going to give you two. Actually, to be honest with you, it's probably going to be the same answer at this level because Key, like I said, he's played like up to like 200, 400. Against typical 1-2 competition, this is 100% a 3-bet jam all in, and it's not even close. you guys aren't even starting that much behind. Now, you do lose to like pocket fives here, but his hand's going to be like pocket fives or some sort of slow played pocket fours. But I think kind of for the same reason, I think he bets a little bit on the turn with those, with pocket fours. So, you just pile the money in against typical small stakes competition because they always have a flush. Now, if you're up against somebody good that's capable of raise folding, you could make a case here that it's just a call because if you 3-bet the river all in, you won't get called by worse. Now, my third segue is Key is playing 1-2. And if I put myself at 1-2, even if I made a backdoor nut flush, I'm still probably not folding. It's fucking 1-2. I would still probably call. It would be a bad call, but I'm playing 1/10 stakes that I normally play. But do you follow those things?
Yeah, definitely. That was my exact thought process too, is like normally I'm fake tanking for a little while and ripping it in. But I was actually thinking through it of like, what hand is he like he made a poker course about live poker. He knows to be afraid of a 3-bet jam on the river.
I mean, the other thing too is that there still has to be some frequency. Well, the other thing I would say here too, again, you have pocket fives, which is a possibility, which you lose to. Now, the backdoor flushes, there still has to be some frequency of him betting the turn, because what is he calling the flop with? There was no rainbow board. I mean, excuse me, it is a rainbow board, right? So he's got some sort of straight draw, like an ace deuce of spades, ace 5 that wasn't necessarily like 3-bet off, 5-6, 5-7 of spades, maybe a light float with a hand like queen 10 of spades, queen jack of spades, which is like a 3 to. But a lot of those hands should bet turn though. So it's interesting.
The river is the 5 of spades though, so it blocks a lot of those.
Oh, that's right, because he can't have the 5-6 of spades,
yeah.
right. So 6-7 of spades, ace deuce, things like that, right? So thank you for pointing that out, and the Broadway backdoors. But whenever he finds himself on the turn when the king pairs and you check to him, and most people aren't checking trip kings, if I had like called the flop with like queen 10 of spades or like ace deuce of spades closing the action or like ace 6 of spades, I'm going to be doing a lot of betting on the turn when you check, when I pick up the backdoor. So when you really kind of look at this, it might be kind of concerning, because what I'm saying here is that not only are you hoping that he always calls the bet 3-bet with the flush, he has to get here with the backdoor flush. And if he's betting off his backdoor flushes with a high frequency flush draws on the turn, with a high frequency on the turn, his hand might lean towards pocket fives.
And that's kind of where I'm coming from, is like there's some like, as far as flushes go, it's really like ace deuce of spades. And then everything else is like either an air ball or a hand that beats me.
Well, what about like 6-7 of spades? You mean like an air ball on the flop?
Right. It's just something that's deciding to spaz out because it's
6-7 of spades and like the backdoor Broadway spades that didn't 3-bet pre-flop. Again, it is kind of interesting though, because once you start to say, if he bets like 50% of his draws that he picks up on the turn here, you could easily make a case that this is just a call because he checked through the turn. You see what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
And if there's ever a frequency that he folds out to your bet 3-bet here, it's a lot closer. But again, against typical 1-2 competition, I'm always jamming. What did you end up doing?
So I really leveled myself into thinking that like pocket fives was the most likely hand here. So I kind of hate myself for it, but I just called the raise on the river.
Okay, and what did he have?
He had ace 6 of spades.
Ace 6 of spades. So I will definitely text Key. And when we do a video on this, hopefully I can work the text in to the video so I can show you the phone. I'm just saying.
Perfect.
And the interesting thing again about that is that, so that's the ace deuce of spades and ace 6 of spades are the ace highs that pick up the draw that don't bet on turn. So he chose not to bet. Whereas the 6-7 of spades might bet, the queen 10 of spades might bet. I don't know what his like 3-bet frequency is for squeezing. I feel like if I'm playing a 1-2 game, I'm probably doing a lot of 3-betting with all those hands with pre-flop and low jack and hijack call as the cutoff where he was. So yeah. And I don't know if he finds the fold that 1-2, you know?
It was a hand I really didn't include in like the possibilities on the river because I just didn't imagine it caring enough to float the flop.
Well, I mean, you bet 2/3. I mean, he's got an overcard, backdoor flush draw, sort of 3 to a straight. It's you could call it a little bit on the lighter side. Even with yeah, and that it's interesting though too because like even with like ace deuce of spades or ace six of spades, which are the primary nut flush draw, the reaching, right? You still might want to bet if you're him to get you to fold like, ace queen, ace jack, just out, on the turn. So interesting hand. Thank you very much, sir.